Welcome to HFR World. On the podcast today, we feature a collaboration in alternative investment intelligence powered by AI. Please note that nothing in this discussion shall be considered investment advice and that HFR does not make any solicitations or recommendations to buy or sell any security or commodity. Welcome, everyone. On September 4th, HFR, the global leader in hedge fund indices, and Radient AI, the breakthrough AI fund intelligence platform, announced a strategic partnership. And joining me now are Sanjay Bharwani, founder and CEO of Radient, and Joel Schwab, senior managing director of HFR Research. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Aneeqa.
Would you please tell us a little bit about this partnership and what you're each bringing to the table?
Sure. So HFR has been producing hedge fund research databases since the early 90s. And today we are one of the leading providers of hedge fund indices globally. We actually produce hundreds of hedge fund indices that are the go-to benchmark for institutional investors and hedge fund managers across the world. Now, we've had a very open policy about working with institutional caliber software partners since our early days. And as time has gone on, we continue to see exceptional innovation in that space. And one of the latest firms that we've determined to work very closely with and actually collaborate with is Radient. Radient is a fantastic system for analyzing hedge funds and utilizing data in public government databases alongside that data. They also have information on mutual funds and ETFs and a host of other fund structures that can be compared to hedge funds. So this is a very exciting collaboration. HFR is showing the Radient software to our clients and very excited about the integration of our database into the system.
And thank you for that, Joel and Aneeqa. Super excited to be here, extremely excited to be partnering with HFR and bring Radiant's AI solution to analyzing hedge funds. To Joel's point, we've been partnering from a data perspective for a while, but I think this strategic partnership will deepen that integration of HFR data on our platform and also kind of connects to Radiant's regulatory filings from the SEC. And I think also importantly, the ability to compare HFR's hedge funds data sets and indices versus mutual funds and ETFs as well, and sort of just accelerating that convergence between private and public funds on a single platform. So thank you again, and super excited for the partnership.
So what are some of the problems that we can solve with this new partnership offering? Can you illustrate with some use cases?
Sure. So there'll really be three use cases we'll talk about here. One is researching a hedge fund firm and the breadth of the hedge funds that are managed by that firm all in one place. Secondly is being able to compare hedge funds to other types of funds with differing structures. In some cases that may actually have lesser fees and other regulated advantages or disadvantages. And third, how Radient can be used to keep an eye on risk and to identify areas for ongoing due diligence scrutiny. Let me speak to the first one now. So one of the primary use cases of the HFR database is researching hedge funds to identify those that an investor might want to conduct due diligence on. And from the vantage point of a hedge fund manager, to understand their strengths and weaknesses versus their peer group. The lion's share of our customers are institutional investors. They are researching hedge fund firms and trying to understand what strategies they are managing, how those funds are performing, and being able to access a host of detail about them, their typical leverage, their fee structure, their liquidity terms. These are all data points in the HFR database. And Radient has done a very tight integration of this information into their system, thereby allowing investors who leverage the Radient tools to get to this data in a very streamlined, efficient, and effective manner. At the same time, there are these government data points that Radient has done a phenomenal job of bringing into their ecosystem and putting alongside the HFR data. This could include ADV data from investment advisors, 13F data, which covers holdings. And all of this can then be examined alongside the fund's performance and asset histories and other useful data points of HFR. So researching hedge funds inside of Radient very much takes institutional hedge fund research to the next level.
Fantastic, Joel. And I think, to your point, our focus together has been on simplifying that complete hedge fund investment lifecycle, right from manager identification to, as you said, kind of researching those managers, not just with the performance and tracking that and using HFR data for that, but then also bringing in ADVs and 13Fs and other kind of SEC filings into the picture. And then that ongoing sort of diligence once you've sort of made that investment, ongoing sort of monitoring and diligence from regulatory filings, and also making sure that the performance sort of meets the kind of style that the manager has kind of set out for themselves. And of course, building all of this into a like allocated portfolio that matches the kind of criteria that the kind of investor has as well.
Similar fund tool comparison. This is really a fantastic dimension of Radient. And for this to happen, you have to have hedge fund data, mutual fund data, and ETF data all in one place. When brought together, comparisons can be made that can be very interesting. For instance, an institutional investor may have an allocation to a hedge fund manager who's charging a 2% management fee and a 20% incentive fee. And that manager may be exhibiting exceptional investment skill and far outperforming an ETF that is generally long only, or the mutual funds in that area. By contrast, though, it is possible that a hedge fund that a family office or a pension fund is invested in is underperforming other structures. And some of these structures may appeal to the investor due to a greater level of regulatory scrutiny in the case of mutual funds, a lower fee in the case of ETFs. And to be able to do that type of side-by-side analysis really opens up opportunities for investors to avail themselves of a highly skilled hedge fund manager when the value proposition is strong, and to avail themselves of a regulated structure or a low fee cost structure when the value proposition is not strong. So that is a comparison that Radient does a great job with, and I'm very thrilled to be able to have our clients conduct some of those comparisons.
And I think, Joel, to your point, right, that's sort of the key strengths of Radient, that we combine sort of analyzing hedge funds with comparisons versus mutual funds and ETFs as well, and really sort of looking at a hedge fund manager. We can find you that entire kind of pure universe of funds that have a similar track record across other hedge funds and mutual funds and ETFs as well. And I think, to your point as well, extremely useful to very kind of fast find a manager that might have differentiated returns, or in some like instances that investor might be better off investing with the public structure like a mutual fund or an ETF, because those returns are fairly monetized with the kind of hedge fund managers. So I think that's kind of crucial. And most of the other platforms are either set up for hedge fund analysis or mutual fund and ETF analysis, and we together are bringing all of that onto a single platform.
Right. Now, the third case, which I wanted to bring to the world's attention, is the use of Radient as a risk monitoring system. Fiduciaries have an ongoing obligation to conduct periodic due diligence and to stay on top of what's going on with the investments they're utilizing. And Radient does a truly exceptional job to take the public data that's been filed and use technology to show how it's changed over time. For instance, if an investment advisor updates their ADV from one year to the next, the Radient system does the comparisons to show those significant points that have changed from one year to the next. So changes in auditors, changes in number of personnel, a whole host of data points that are recorded on these regulatory filings. When they change, they can be seen and identified. So this is something that a risk team, a compliance team can do to utilize Radient to keep up on the funds they're invested in, to run peer group comparisons of those funds with others, and to utilize the Radient technology to call out changes that could be yellow or red flags for further follow-up. Certainly, these institutional investors could pull the latest regulatory filings and read them and log data points, but the ease with which Radient compares these from one period to the next really offers a great value proposition.
Joel, I think to your point, with sort of Radient, we provide that kind of constant surveillance of these filings to find any sort of red flags or kind of gremlins as they show up and sort of notify. So it's a really good way to track any issues at these managers without having to constantly go in and look at the filings yourself. Radient will sort of highlight them for you as any of these issues going to pop up, whether it's a key service provider change or also if they had some kind of legal proceedings and that were kind of filed on the ADB or on other sort of Edgar kind of documents as well. So really good way to track what's going on with either managers that you've invested with or also managers that you might be thinking about making an investment with, and do that as soon as these things are reported.
Is there a use case that we can demonstrate for hedge fund managers at all? Is there something we can talk about that might be of interest to them in doing their due diligence?
Well, absolutely. There are hedge fund managers who invest in other hedge funds, and they are a significant group of clients of HFR. They want to see new and emerging managers that they may want to place money with or even bring in-house. There are, of course, large multi-manager pod shops that sometimes bring in outside teams that have had their own funds and bring them into their firms. So HFR delivers data on thousands of hedge funds around the world and really adds visibility for larger hedge fund firms that are looking to bring in new teams or potentially deploy some capital to external managers. We have fund of hedge fund clients. They are a big part of our user base. And managers themselves who really want to hone in on their strengths and weaknesses, some of their differentiating factors, can always become HFR customers and pull together great peer data to understand how do their liquidity terms compare, how does their performance in recent periods compare, and beyond. So use of the HFR database by hedge fund managers and leveraging a platform such as Radient to use it is just a great combination to get to those types of answers.
Yeah, and just on that, like we have kind of several clients using us from a kind of investor relations perspective to compare their performance versus an HFR index and to sort of prove that kind of differentiation to their kind of investors as well. So I think kind of to your question, that's a key sort of use case for HFR plus Radient.
So Sanjay, can you elaborate on the AI component of this partnership? In what ways is AI being utilized on this platform?
No, fantastic. And that's a great question, Aneeqa. In fact, we get asked this all the time. And I think the sort of nub of it is there's a lot of information on these funds that's sitting in the public domain. I think Joel going to touch on this as well. It's an SEC website. It's sometimes, some of our clients also have fund fact sheets that they kind of bring to us. And then connecting all of that or sort of machine reading that from the SEC, from these documents, and then connecting that with HFR's data requires sort of AI to be able to make sense of it, and then using generative AI to produce summaries and other outputs from that. We also use AI to shorten what was in the past a really sort of time-consuming task of calculating the factor profiles of these funds and things like that. So we use smarter techniques now to be able to kind of factor profile funds so we can compare, say, hedge funds versus all these other different structures and do that in a really fast, timely manner. And the last thing I'll sort of point to is we're able to cross-reference as we go. So the platform's really smart as, you're looking at something, it'll sort of start to tell you about something else you might be interested in because it's learning about your behavior. So from a technical standpoint, we're using our proprietary LLMs to synthesize all of this information and make it available. And that's how we can really, if something is filed with the SEC, we'll have it on Radient within the next day or so. And it just all gets ingested and fits really nicely together. And that's only possible with the power of AI.
Absolutely. So more efficient information processing and speed of action and analysis is really the big gain here from the AI component, it feels like.
No, exactly. And I think the last thing I would add is just finding insights that you really couldn't in the past, right? So it was like just hard to connect all these dots. So we kind of connect those dots as well. And then I think to Joel's point, also take HFR super rich kind of data set, but then connect that with what's on the SEC and then also what a client might be receiving as a fact sheet. And just, not only connect all those points, but then also find that sort of end insight for a customer, which might even be, that there's an issue from a performance standpoint or another fund that might have a cheaper way to access that same exposure or what have you.
I see. So how will people find out more and be able to obtain access to this new platform?
So investors or managers, service providers, anyone who is excited about these value propositions and how a combination like this can save them time and money, we absolutely would encourage you to reach out to HFR or Radient if you already have a relationship with one of our firms. If you're new to both of us, you could contact HFR or Radient, and we are very much working together to explain this new solution and to allow access to these services.
No, absolutely. And thank you for that, Joel and Aneeqa. Excited for our partnership and definitely do get in touch with either HFR or Radient.
That sounds excellent and a great step forward in integrating AI into the hedge fund data. And I am thrilled to hear about all these different use cases. I know a lot of light bulbs will be going off in people's heads. Thank you for joining us today. And I look forward to hearing more. Please subscribe to our newsletter and our podcasts for more information and for updates on this and other partnerships that HFR has. And you can always visit the Radient website and the hfr.com website to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, Aneeqa.
Thank you, Aneeqa. Thank you, Joel.